And the idea is to think of them as a translation. And what we mean by that is we're going to start with a basic graph, and then we're going to do things to it. We might move it up or down. We might flip it over. We might change the gradient so that it is much steeper like this. The advantage of thinking about line graphs this way is that it can make your graphing of more complicated functions, things like parabolas and circles, ellipses, it can make those much easier when you're learning about them a few years later. So we're going to start with our simple graph y equals x. Whatever the x value is, the y is exactly the same. And we can see that it goes through the 0, 0 point, which we call the origin. It goes up, positive here, and then it's going down negative this way. Now, what we're going to do is manipulate it, move it around, change the gradient. So we can change the slope of the graph. So this is what we call the gradient. We could make it steeper, shallower, make it go the other way. And the other thing we can do is we can move our graph up or down. And we'll say that's a vertical translation because we are moving it vertically, up or down. So let's start with our basic graph, y equals x, and let's change the gradient. So we're going to make it y equals 2 times x. So whatever x is, the y value will be twice that. Now we're going to graph that. It's still going to go through the origin, 0, 0, but it's going to now go up 2 squares for every one that goes across. So our line is going to look like this. If we extend it down, it would go like this. See how it's steeper? We've changed the gradient of our graph. So now let's change our gradient by making it half of x. So the red line is our y equals x, our basic graph. We fill in our table of values like our in-out machine. So 0, 1/2, 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5. And then we are going to fill that in on our graph. Still goes through the origin, 0, 0. But now it's going to be shallower like this. We've changed the gradient. What happens if instead we put a negative in here? So let's say we've got y equals negative 1/2 of x. Well, what we would be doing is changing our graph so that it goes this way. It's now going to have a negative gradient. It's sloping downwards. So we can change the gradient. We can make it steeper, shallower, or make it negative and going the other way. So next, we look at changing our vertical translation. So I'll draw in our basic graph, y equals x. Now what we're going to do is that we're going to have y is equal to x plus 2. So if x is 0, y is 2. X is 1, y is 3, and so on. Now, if we graph this, what we will see is that it is exactly parallel to our previous graph, but it has been moved up 2 places. It is now up 2 positions. We'll do another example. We draw in y equals x. Now, our equation is y equals x minus 1. We could fill in our little table and then graph it, but we know what we're doing now. We know that we are going to get a parallel line that is 1 square down. So we can just draw it in there much quicker. So now we're going to combine both of these things. We're going to do 2 changes. We're going to change the gradient and the vertical translation. Now, we could do this thinking of it as our in-out machine and filling in our table. So we go, whatever the x is, we multiply it by 2, take away 1. So that would go minus 1. The next value, x is 1, multiply it by 2, take away 1. The next value, multiply it by 2, so that's 4, take away 1, 3. 3 times 2 is 6, take away 1, 5, and so on. But the other way we can do it is we can view our basic graph as our starting point and then carry out 2 translations, 2 changes to it. So our red line is y equals x. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to change the gradient. We know that when the gradient is 2, y equals 2x, for every 1 square in the x direction, it goes 2 in the y. So I've drawn that in there. That is y equals 2x. Now we have to do the second part. So we're going to move it down 1 position. So I'm going to start at the origin. That will go down. And then I'm drawing in my line here. It's a bit wobbly, sorry. It's very wobbly in the middle there. But what we are going to get is parallel to the blue line, but we have moved it down 1 position. And so doing it this way can be a lot quicker. Let's practice that one more time. We'll start by drawing in y equals x. We are going to then change the gradient. We can see it's a half. That means that it's going to be for every 1 square we go in the x direction, we're going to go half a square in the y. See how it's now shallower? And it should go through the origin there. It's just a bit wobbly. So that is our first part of the translation. Second thing, we've got to do plus 2. So we move that whole blue line up 2. So we draw it in there. So the purple line is our answer. Y equals a half x plus 2. What we'll do in the next video is we'll look at another way of graphing. which is using x and y intercepts.